Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order. Any emails from open forum? No. And other than Graham, nobody in the bullpen. Hi, Graham. Country Club number 13, Emergency Capital Project.
Well, I brought Graham in, and I have Graham. Why don't you step up to the microphone? You got it. And maybe you could describe what's going on. I have this is GIS, and I also have this at your disposal. Maybe you can talk to what's going on.
Sure. So we've had ongoing erosion that began however many years ago, but it has gotten to a point this year with the spring rains where it got back to the sewer line, which Village Wastewater maintains. That blew apart and began eroding even more of that bank, which has now created an issue where we can't use the T-box any longer. That's right by the tree. They have temporarily repaired the sewer line and strapped that to the tree, which you guys can see on the overhead picture there as a temporary solution, just to hold it together until they could get permitting done and everything. So we looked at two options to repair this. One was to rebuild the creek bank. Village Wastewater has an easement that runs all the way back to 71, so they have the ability to abandon that if they would like to, and just rebore anywhere they would like to go all the way back to Highway 71 to re-put their sewer lines into a safe location. So in my mind, it's but they are willing to help make this repair. So what they're willing to do is do a 50-50 split with the POA to put the sewer line where it's currently at, back where it's currently at, with new piping, and rebuild that whole creek bank. They've already got the Corps of Engineers to approve a permit. We're still waiting on the city to potentially approve the work as well, but this would be bringing fill back in, I think it's a 3-to-1 slope of what, riprap, which the question came up the last time I was here. It's just large rock, and so that would be a slope down back into the creek. There would be no slurry or any concrete on top of that, and that would allow vegetation, trees, and whatnot to come back up through the rock and kind of help stabilize that as well. So that's option one. That total cost, the MAC division and Village Wastewater has planning on doing all this work in-house within those two entities at a cost of about $120,000 in material costs. So it'd be a $60,000 project if we were to go that way. Alternatively, we looked at if we were to also abandon that project, or fixing that creek and just let it potentially continue eroding. It also brings the cart path in play, although that's probably multiple years away from being an issue. But we have our irrigation main line running kind of parallel with the cart path as you see it after it makes that 90-degree bend and starts running down. Our main line irrigation is running along that. So that's the threat, although it is multiple years away, if we both abandon it. If we do abandon it, we would kind of take prior architectural plans by Lester and move those tee boxes over there. And if you go to the next picture, you can kind of see. I had David Welchel, one of our members, who's also a golf course architect, kind of work up some again, he went off of Lester's planning, which is moving those tee boxes over in that area over by 12 Green, and we would have to bring in fill material, redo irrigation, new cart path to those teeing areas, and we would be able to go that way for a cost of, I think it's around $36,000. But again, you leave the potential in the future for having a major issue with cart path and our mainline irrigation, which if that were to go out, we would potentially, you risk potentially not having water for greens, depending on what time of year that is. That could be a major issue, and tees, fairways, and everything else that would go along with that. So,
your recommendation?
My recommendation is to rebuild the creek. You could still move those tee boxes over there if we got to a point where we were interested in doing that work as well. You could do that in the future, but I think rebuilding the creek is is what I would recommend.
Questions from Graham?
Just for clarification, where, when you said along the cart path, where is the sewer or irrigation on this?
Right here.
Right, okay.
Our main line irrigation runs, and it's within a couple feet of the cart path parallel. Now, the sewer line right now is currently exposed and hanging in the creek, so.
If they're to bore a new hole, what would it cost them to bore a new hole?
They have the ability to do all the boring, so they're gonna bore, in-house, and I don't know what their cost would be. Village Wastewater, would do that. Now, if we rebuild the creek, they said, you know, in the process, I didn't mention this, we already lost an irrigation lateral line for the T's, that got exposed, blew apart, we had to cap it off, and we lost, I think, 2 sprinklers there. So in the process of rebuilding the creek bank, they're also willing to rebore our irrigation line as well and put that back the way it was. No cost to the POA.
So a follow-up question, if we were to do option 2, do you know what Village Wastewater would do?
They would just use their easement all the way back to 71 and put their sewer line in a safe location under the golf course somewhere. Not exactly sure, but they can kind of go anywhere they'd like.
Is option 1 cheaper for wastewater because we'd split the cost than for them to do that, or do you know?
I don't know that. I couldn't be able to speak to that.
And I get that we're talking about spending roughly twice the amount of money to make this build back, but if we look long-term with the potential of the further damage to the cart path and to that, I think we're actually spending less money right here to just to fix it and eliminate that concern.
This is a little bit of a side question, but the second option to move the tee boxes per Lester's plan, how does that affect the slope and course rating?
That would probably be more of a Daryl question.
Definitely effective.
I know that when the golf course floods, that tee, where that tee used to be, never flooded.
Right.
I know that when the course floods, where that tee used to be, it never flooded.
Right.
And it seems all the power of water comes through that area just to the green side of 12, or to the tee side of 12 green. And that's why we have had all that energy moving the subsoil out of there. The other thing I think we should think about is, I don't know if you guys play much golf with guys that can, you know, try and reach that green into, but there's a lot of balls that hit that tee box. There were never any balls that hit the old tee box. So
Right.
from a safety standpoint, the old tee box was a much better situation. Never should have been moved, in my opinion. But anyway,
So
that's it.
just for clarification of Bob's comment, because I apologize, I couldn't see this on the phone last week. Is the old tee box where we were talking about moving it back to?
Yes.
Okay.
I think part of that architectural work, a big goal of that was to get tees and greens out of the current flood zone, which I haven't seen it yet, but I know it's an issue. So,
My concern without doing the creek, keeping it here, you mentioned the cart path, but 12 green, again, it's not next year, 2 years, who knows when, but that green can also be in play of erosion, and we could lose that green as well.
right.
And didn't you, if I remember correctly, with the shade around that the new tee box might be, I know we're experimenting on some other grasses, but there might be a problem with grass growth because of the shade.
So we did, you know, looking at that pretty closely with Reed and David Welchel, I think we would struggle with Bermuda grass back there, potentially struggle with zoysia grass. There's that homeowner that my understanding is he owns part of that lake there as well. So I think our ability to do tree trimming on that side is limited. So we would probably, we've talked about, I played Shadow Valley this spring. They're converting a lot of their Bermuda grass and shaded areas to bluegrass and having some success there. If you have the water, it's doable, especially with the shade. So that could be a potential, something we could look at as well. So.
How long ago and why was it moved in the first place?
I don't know. I think in the renovation, I think it happened in the renovation that, the full-scale renovation that they did on Country Club, but I don't know the reason.
This is decades ago.
Okay.
This is before David?
Before David?
That's a long time ago.
So,
That was before the Rosetta Stones.
in the early nineties, the old tee box was being utilized, and I think it was around, I'm gonna say 97, somewhere around there where they moved things. And they, at that time, they did it to mitigate flood. So, anyway.
One of the examples we talked about is, I don't know if you, behind Crylike, where that bridge is, that they're gonna end up removing the bridge, there's that path, there's that bike path there, and if you go to Walgreens, you've seen that they've relocated that bike path like 4 times because of erosion, because you have a straight shot on the creek and then it hits a turn. And that's somewhat similar to here. It's gonna continue to go and eat into this area if we don't repair it. And unfortunately, I don't have that other graphic that you had last week, but that graphic shows that it comes way back here.
Right, so the repair work, I kind of point that out, where that's going to, it's not just to protect this tee, which is currently the one where the erosion is, it actually goes to the tree line that's in this area, all the way back to, I think it's right in here, kind of maybe at the start of this bend, so we would rip wrap down here, all the way down into the creek, up to the point, where the trees start a little further up.
I think, anytime we have problems with the creek bank, this is what we need to do. The village wastewater is willing to share in the cost. It's something that's gonna have to be done anyway. So I think, you go ahead, you do it, and, keep in mind, this is how we repair the creek banks so that they don't keep eroding. We can control Sugar Creek,
Well, and also, because Village Wastewater is willing to go ahead and do this, they must think it's important, because they don't have to do it, right? They have another alternative, but they obviously think that it's important to repair it.
And they've already done the hard work, which is get approval from the Corps of Engineers. I mean, that's.
Yes.
Anything else for Graham on this topic? Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
I just want to say, don't ever fool yourself into thinking we're going to stop erosion. Because all you're going to do is, you're going to extend it either further down or further back up the stream. The whole cause of that, if you took that sand, all that rock bank out to the left of that stream, then the water wouldn't be stopped and forced back into our side of the creek. So that the real answer is to relocate the flow of the stream. So anyway, I'm in favor of doing the plan with wastewater.
But what we learned from the flood study is that we did back in 17 was we have to learn to live with it, and we're never going to stop it, but we have to be able to learn to live with it. And one of the examples of living with it, this goes back to Keith's time, but we raised those controllers up so they don't get damaged, and we raised the heating units on the restrooms so they're above the water line. So that's a basic example of how we're trying to live with it, knowing that the bathrooms are going to get flooded and we're going to have to clean them out, but at least we don't lose the expensive part, the HVAC system or something like that.
Anything else?
Thank you, Graham, for coming.
Well,
Appreciate
Graham,
it.
before you leave, off of this topic, Highlands, looking great. Played it last night, played it a couple times since it opened back up. Project well done. So, absolutely. Well, the rough is really nice because that's where I play, but I hear the fairways are good too. But thanks,
And
Graham.
my dogs are excited that there are golfers back on there because he stands out there and barks at all of them.
Lovely.
Thanks, Graham. Okay.
The next item is the lakes violation fee. This was covered in quite a bit of detail at the last Lakes Committee meeting, so that for viewers that are live streaming, they can view that meeting as that the video is available on the POA's website. During that meeting, there was two adjustments that were made to the proposal, and I've incorporated both of those adjustments at the end. So the last page of your board packet. The first one was all funds collected from the boat violation fee should be used by the POA to improve the quality of the golf course by dedicating the funds in this way. Sorry. Lakes.
I'm okay with it.
Lakes, all right. It is 9 o'clock this morning. By dedicating the funds in this way, we can hopefully avoid false accusations that the fees are being used to supplement the POA's budget. We all know that the amount of money that we're going to bring in from this violation fee will be minimal, but we don't need to have anybody accuse us that we're trying to supplement our budget. And it makes sense to just dedicate the funds to go that way. And in the second change was in the instance of guests or short-term renters that commit the infraction, the member will be obligated to pay. It's going to be really hard to get out of the guest or the short-term renter, and really our authority extends to the member. And then it's their obligation to chase after their guest or their short-term renter to get the money out of them. And so those were two of the changes that were recommended. What is recommended at this point is that we move this to the Rules and Regulations Committee, which will meet in October, and Doug and I are already working on the recommended changes to the policy that would reflect this memo, because this memo is just the starting point. You now have to codify it into our governing documents.
So
Should that, in number one there, all funds collected should be used or shall be used?
We'll make sure that the language in the document, in the governing documents, is clearer than should. Bob?
Was my understanding the way we were going to collect these were when people went to register their boats?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I don't own a boat, and a lot of vacation rental people don't have boats. If I have a guest and they violate, how are you going to collect it from me?
I'm not going to say this is perfect, but within the confines of our governing documents, this is a good first step that we can do.
So why not tie it to any amenity they use? Why not tie it to their annual golf or their white card?
I'm going to kick this one to Doug.
Yeah, it has to be, it would have to be, there has to be some kind of nexus or connection to the actual violation. And so by implementing a rule and specific to lakes or boat registration, we have a way to, that they're agreeing to the rules that we put in place when they register their boat, and then we would collect from them on their registry. That's the manner that we would be able to collect the fee.
Why can't you put in the rule that if the boat isn't, if you don't have a boat registered?
What would you tie it to?
Well, I would have it when they come in to buy their white card, or even anything like that. If they were going to get an annual golf, if they lived on a lake and had a member, because a person doesn't have to live on a lake to have a member or to have a guest come and use the lake. So
I don't know that. I'll have to look at it. Give me some more time.
Okay.
You put me on the spot here, but it seems like they'd have to have a boat, some way to tie it back to that boat registration. But I'll look into it and consider your comment to see if there's another way to do that.
Because keep in mind, our governing documents say that we can't fine people, and so we're trying to find a workaround that will stand up and comport. And so the
No, I get that, but if people live on a lake and they know that they have these things that they're gonna be obligated to, and they know other members that don't live on a lake, but can have guests use the lake, then they're not obligated to worry about that situation.
But it's tied to the boat registration, not whether they live on the lake or don't live on the lake. It's the
So
boat
I
registration.
understand
if you
that,
have-
what I'm saying is, so what you're doing is separating memberships. You're giving, you're putting a penalty in for people that live on the lake that have people that violate it, and you're not putting a penalty in for people that don't use the lake but have guests here that come and use it, and if they violate it, there's no way to go after them.
The key is the guest is tied to a property owner.
Property.
And if a guest of the property owner violates, that property owner will not be able to have another guest register any boat, any guest, until that fine is, that fee is paid. So that's how it would be for people who
But it's
do not
tied-
have a boat.
It's tied to their boat registration, not.
I get that, but if you don't have a boat registration.
Okay, but how'd you have a boat on the lake then if you don't have a boat registration?
Because because your relative brought their own boat.
Right.
We've had that happen.
The guest can.
I agree.
And they have a
And
guest,
And
they
if the
buy
guest
a
violates,
One pass,
they can't,
a 1 week
that
pass.
property owner cannot have another guest register a boat.
How
that
would you
in
stop
here?
that?
I didn't see that in here.
What will stop that is
That's
you
how
have
it
to
would
give
work,
the- you
though.
have to
Am
give
I
the
right?
property
Well,
owner
I don't know if it will work.
Well,
that way.
again, it's not perfect, but it's something to start with.
We got
And
until
and
it's
I
over.
totally hear what you're saying and
Yeah.
agree, but let Doug do a little bit
But
more
these
digging.
are comments that are important, like I was
Yep.
trying to figure out, how do you get a guest boat on there if you don't have, if the member doesn't have, there's some way that the guest boat has to be registered and connected to the
All you
member.
do is,
Connected to
all you do is buy a pass for a week. They have to show the registration of the boat, but you prepay before the week starts. So member services doesn't know that they're gonna make violations. So they charge whatever it is, $80 or whatever it is now. And then they get a piece of paper that says they're allowed to have the boat on that lake.
As a guest of,
As
A member.
A guest of a member, but
that's the member's problem.
Well, again, this is the first step in the process, and so, like Tom mentioned, there's gonna be several steps, including, reviewing the boat regulations, reviewing the registration document that we use for boat owners, but this is another thing that we'll consider.
And also, I think we discussed this, I could have dreamed it, because I dream about the POA all the time. It's not necessarily always a guest that's doing these violations either. It's kind of like we talk about the golf courses all the time and ball divots not being fixed on greens. It's not always the guest that's doing it. A lot of it is the members. So let Doug will, valid points. Let Doug will dig into it. We have the address of somebody that's a guest, so we mail them a ticket like the state does when you run through a toll. I don't know, but we'll figure it out.
I don't know, you may be bringing this up, but I like what you added, you haven't talked about it yet, the fact that, let's just say it's a member, so we don't start another war here, but that they have the ability to go ahead and pay the fine ahead of time at half price?
Yes, well, not ahead of time, not before the
Well,
violation, but they can pay it sooner.
Before the boat registration.
I'm gonna go ahead and get my two out of the way.
No, before the boat registration.
paid, here's my get out of jail free card.
I can speed all I want because I've already paid for the
Pay my
ticket.
fine.
No,
Fee,
before the
I'm
boat
teasing, I'm
registration.
teasing. Yes, and that's the mechanism we came up with to try and get the immediate attention as opposed to them re-registering their boat 9 months down the road and they've already forgotten. We're trying to get because we're just trying to get them to slow down or don't cause a wake or don't go close, whatever they're doing wrong, we're just trying to get their attention.
And not give the lake rangers a hard time, that's a real problem.
Sandy?
would there be any way, Doug, to keep track of those types of people so that they could not bring their boat back again without paying that fine?
The guest part of it?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how to make a note in the system to that effect, yes.
We're not supposed to profile Sandy.
When this goes into effect, can marketing put something out in one of their newsletters restating boat safety so all members can see?
Correct,
And even if you're not on the lake and you're visiting or for whatever reason, that way it's not just the boaters that are getting it, but we're announcing it to everybody what we're doing?
And the benefit of the timing that we're working on, so it goes in front of the rules and regs in October, assuming that it goes well, it would be approved by the board in November. All the boats are renewed on a calendar basis, okay? And they have to get and sign that they received the boat rules and regulations. So yes, our plan is to make it very well known, and we'll have to probably do additional newsletter updates as we get into boating season, because they're gonna register their boat in January, and by May, they've already forgotten that we have these fees in place.
I really like that, because I think we ought to go at it from the safety aspect. That's why we're doing this anyway. And instead of like, you're gonna be punished, more of a, hey, this is a safety thing.
We're all in this together.
Right.
I mean, and what Jason indicated is correct. In speaking with the Lake Rangers, the majority of the infractions are our members. It's really easy to blame the short-term renters and guests. It's our own members that are really committing most of the infractions.
Anything else? All right.
I think the next rules and regs is going to be very fun.
All right.
Your idea of fun, JB.
He was doing fun, but
Different, but
we'll
Oh,
go.
You go.
well, it's not just a, I like it. I like it.
We're glad that you do. Anything else that's not on the agenda we want to talk about before we go into announcements? Nope. Okay. Next Board of Directors regular session is next Thursday, the 25th at 6 p.m. in the boardroom and live stream. Lakes JAC is October 8th at 2 o'clock. Golf JAC is October 8th at 4, both of those in the boardroom and live stream. JB's Fun Rules and Reg Committee meeting is Thursday, October 9th at 1:30 in the boardroom and live stream. The next GM, which is a closed meeting, is October 9th at 2. Recreation JAC, October 13th at 4 here in the boardroom and live stream. Our next work session is October 16th at 9 a.m. boardroom and live stream, and our October regular session is October 23rd at 6 here in the boardroom and live stream. And that is all. Meeting adjourned.